Welcome to a special expert mini-series for CenterState CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank. In this series, we'll feature experts from across central New York and beyond to dig into our membership's most requested topics. You'll also hear stories of successful collaborations between a few of our longstanding members and CenterState CEO that could inspire your next big move.
Take a moment right now to subscribe in your listening app for reminders every other Wednesday for our main podcast series. And be sure to catch the rest of the expert mini-series as well. Today, we are joined by CenterState CEO member Susan Crossett, CEO and owner of CPS Recruitment. CPS Recruitment delivers customized recruiting solutions and staffing services to businesses throughout the Northeast. Susan is a well-known civic leader in CNY and currently serves as treasurer on the board of directors of CenterState CEO. Today, Susan will share with us her expertise around talent attraction and what companies can do to find the people they need in an ever-tightening labor market.
I'm Andrew Fish, Senior Vice President of Member and Business Experience at CenterState CEO.
I'm Kate Hammer, business coach and member at CenterState CEO. We are your hosts for Talk CNY.
Susan, thank you so much for joining us today. Really delighted to have you and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what CPS Recruitment does?
I will. So CPS Recruitment has been in business for 34 years in Central New York. Mm-hmm. I bought the company in January of 2020, so my timing was
perfect.
Impeccable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Impeccable. But what we do is we help our clients find talent, whether it's on a professional level or direct hire, long-term contract, or temporary needs. So we have been established in this community, as I said, for a long time. We specialize in areas of, on the direct hire, IT, technology, accounting, C-suite things, typical things for administration, whether it's supply chain, that sort of thing. On the temporary side, we really specialize in finding talent for call centers, light industrial, and warehouses.
Great.
So we just opened an office in Buffalo, office in Rochester. We are new at Hartford, and of course we're here. And then we also operate in 6 other states.
Fantastic.
And thank goodness.
Right.
Because wow, the demand.
It's unusual right now, isn't it?
It's exceedingly unusual. But if you take a step back and look at some of the data that we've been studying in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of things. 3 million people retired more than ever before. So that's above and beyond the normal retirement numbers. We have very, very low immigration rates. And that's always been an opportunity for us to have growth and people filling the jobs that we are currently not filling. And we have low birth rates. Right. So we're in this
perfect storm
bubble here where we have many, many more jobs open than people to fill them. So
and that's nationally, right? I mean, that's not just here.
It's not just here, but we feel the effects of it here as any other place does. Yeah.
Well, and particularly now as we're starting to move into a season of growth here, that makes it even more challenging. So, you're very familiar with the Good Life CNY initiative that we've worked on, and CPS Recruitment is a partner in that initiative. I checked the job board before we got on, 5,500 openings on the job board right now.
Isn't that exciting?
On the Good Life. It is. It is
exciting, but it's also very challenging.
Right.
So one of the things that we help our clients do is figure out a number of things. Are they paying the right salary for the position that's required? Salaries have gone up. Actually, the statistics I looked at yesterday, 76% of our clients nationwide in our industry have raised their salaries. And that's in recognition of everybody's, looking for the same talent pool, and wages go up because of that. Then, so we help our clients figure out what's the right salary range for the particular job. What are other companies paying? What is the availability of that job? Can you look at different requirements? For instance, you need a 4-year degree and 10 years of experience to do this particular task. Do you really? Do you really? I mean, think about it. If there's an opportunity to train someone who has the aptitude and the attitude, isn't that so much better? Because then you can say, this is how we like you to do the business, your work. So those are some of the things we work on.
Excellent. You had mentioned the evaluation of the salary, right? And I think you coming into this work in January of, well, you came back to this work,
I
to
did.
be clear.
I
You
did.
started
That
out in
was a
staffing.
long time ago.
Yeah,
I did start out.
But
in
listen,
staffing.
some of those things haven't changed. But one of the things that has, I think, is that, some of those industries that you mentioned, people aren't just competing with the company down the street on those
No.
jobs anymore, are they? I mean,
No.
you're talking about remote work possibilities.
Huge remote work possibilities.
Mhm.
So, in fact, one of our clients that I was talking to this morning, we just staffed a call center rep for him, and they're in Fort Lauderdale.
Hmm.
So it doesn't really matter
Sure.
if it's a remote job. The thing you lose, though, is the culture.
Yeah.
So you have to be very mindful of how do you build a culture with remote people all over the country.
Mhm.
And that's a big focus right now, to make sure that you've got a welcoming, open culture, that you've got opportunities for people to grow. Because when you don't see someone and they're out of sight, you just don't think about them as a possibility for growth and maybe the next Andrew.
Mhm.
So that's really important. Culture and how you address it. Everyone wants to understand what your culture is. What's your mission? What are you about?
Mhm.
Even if you make widgets, are you making the best possible widgets you possibly can?
Mhm.
What are you giving back to the community? Do people have opportunities for training? Training is really a big hot button right now. They want to know that you're going to invest in them as they grow their careers.
Sure.
So that's a neat thing too.
So I'm starting to hear you pull on some threads about what companies should be doing,
Oh,
right? To
right.
make themselves more attractive
Set them
for
apart.
people.
Mhm.
Yeah. Set them apart from everybody else. Some of the other things that we help people figure out is, just because you've got 3 shifts, for instance, not everybody can be remote, and we recognize that.
Sure.
Mhm.
And
You mentioned warehousing. That's
warehousing,
difficult
you
to be
have
remote.
to be in
Yeah.
place to do that. But do you have to start at
Mhm.
8:00 and end at 5? Could you do something that matches the bus schedule?
Oh, preach. Yes.
Right? Because
Mhm.
not everyone has a car.
Mhm.
A lot of people that want to work don't have the ability to work because of transportation.
Mhm.
So that's a big challenge. Can you do 4-day work weeks?
Mhm.
That's becoming a very attractive opportunity for people. Maybe it's even 35 hours a week, 4 days a week.
Right.
There's been studies, and I know this is really hard for some of us who are, you got to put your 40s in kind of people, 40 hours in. But the latest study shows that 32 hours, 4 days a week gets you more productivity than a traditional 5-day, 40-hour week.
Wow. That's significant.
Nobody would have thought that, but you get rid of the extra chit chat, the long lunch. You've got people. Well, I'm only here 4 days. Let me get my job done.
Yeah.
Right. That makes a difference.
Mhm.
Well, we have that tendency to fill the amount of time that we have with whatever we're doing. So pace.
That's a
right?
great point. That is a really good point. Yeah.
I love that stat. I love that it's something real. It's not theoretical, it's real. And
Mhm.
so it needs consideration. And I
Mhm.
love that you can present that very real, tangible information to your clients to help them make better decisions.
We spend some time on that. And then, people don't know what particular jobs are. So one of the things that we've suggested is take a video of your plant floor.
Mhm.
What does it look like? Talk to some of the people on it. It doesn't have to be, a high level production. It's just gives you a sense of the company, what you do, what's it look like to work there. Today's foundry doesn't look like
No,
yesterday's.
certainly not.
And people really don't get exposure to what it looks like in a factory.
Right.
Unless you watch the Discovery Channel.
So a lot of the things that you're talking about here, and I just want to make sure folks know. I want to make sure folks know that in our second March episode of Talk CNY, we had our Senior Vice President of Inclusive Growth, Dominic Robinson, and our VP of Workforce Innovation, Amy Durfee, on. They talked about a lot of these things, right? About how companies need to be thinking differently about this, how they need to be, thinking about shifts differently, how they need to be understanding that what people think about when they hear manufacturing isn't there. So I encourage folks to go listen to that. But I'm really excited to be talking to you because you're in the trenches with these companies too, and you're seeing it and you're actively working with them on it.
And the successful companies are doing that.
Yeah.
It really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It's not all about the pay. It's about a whole host of things, especially people coming into the market today, just out of school or just out of college. What are they looking for? They want meaningful work even if it is building a widget, it's okay, but what else is there? What's the
does it
culture
kinda-
like?
Mhm.
What are my opportunities? So
We
Mhm.
also have a great resource on the resource library for Click that we worked on
Mhm,
with you
mhm.
about Gen Z workforce
yes.
and some of the opportunities that are presented with working with Gen Z. So encourage people to go check that out too.
Ooh, can we just hear like one? Do you remember one?
One of the things as it
Yes,
relates to
I'm
the
just-
Gen Z
I'm so
workforce and
curious,
the
yeah.
opportunities there.
So I think that they come with a different set of social obligations. They feel very connected to wanting to do the right thing. So if you've got a program where you reward or encourage employees to do volunteerism, that group is going to do it. That's going to that makes a difference for your company. Your vendors and your customers want to know, what do you do? It's not just the people working for you.
Yeah.
Your customers want to know, how are you giving back? So that's a great opportunity with the Gen Zs. We can't let the USA Today report go unmentioned.
Right?
We cannot.
I love it so much. So
So
what Susan's referring to is that recently Syracuse was named as the seventh highest city for in-migration of Gen Z population, which means when you take those leaving and those coming in, Syracuse was the seventh. And then what's amazing is that you look at the six in front of us and it's like Atlanta and DC and Nashville. It's large metros. And here's Syracuse sitting at number 7, which is fantastic. And hopefully will help us as we start thinking about that tightening labor market and bringing folks
attracting
in.
people to Central New York. We've worked on that through the Good Life for a couple of years now. But I think, recognizing small cities have a lot to offer. We have everything you could possibly want. We have theater, we have parks, we have great waterways, we have wonderful skiing, especially this last week.
Yeah, right.
So, a lot of seasons.
We didn't understand,
here.
but the seasons are really important, and it gives you a great outdoor life because of that. So, and I think people are looking for that.
Yeah.
And it takes us 20 minutes to get anywhere. Cost of housing is really pretty reasonable. School systems are great. We have a lot to offer.
For sure.
20 minutes to get anywhere. It's just enough time to listen to one of these episodes.
Absolutely. It's a good plug.
What are some of the red flags that you see when you're starting to work with a client and you're starting to get an understanding of what they've been doing that hasn't been working for them?
So they start with a job description that is this long. So they really haven't.
So very long.
Very long with another really long list of, you must have these qualifications. I think that's a huge red flag, because you're not going to find that person today. It's just impossible. And if you are, you're going to steal from one of your competitors, which maybe that's what they want to do, but we don't do that. So it's really, really defining exactly what the job is and what do you really need to help get that job done. So putting the job description in a different way, really trying to sell the company about, here's why it's a great place to work. So if they come in and say, this is what we've always paid, we're not going to go any higher, someone willing to put in that extra effort for, here's what the job does. And yes, there's room for growth. Maybe you do have a starting salary that's closer to the minimum wage, but you're willing to say, after 6 months, we're going to give you an opportunity to prove yourself and get more. Hey, so yeah, it's the rigidness about a job description is probably the biggest red flag.
So just had a thought about that. And is it thinking more about the attributes somebody has versus the activities they've undertaken?
Yes.
Ooh.
And that's one of the things that we can help you with. If you go and list your job on Indeed, you're going to get whatever the AI sends you. So it's picking out the words that match the words in your job description.
Yeah.
You're not going to get someone to really filter through and say, okay, look at what this person's done. This could be easily transferred to this other business.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's where you have the advantage when you're working with a talented pool of recruiters, like at my company. They've got decades, in some cases, of experience, and they kind of really can figure out which person might be best suited. Do they use those sources in the beginning to kind of get a pool? Yes. But they also take the time to look through and say, okay, this candidate sounds like they might have the attributes that they're looking for. And then it's up to us to say to the candidate, here's why this company is good. And then say to the company, that's why this person is worth looking at, and try to make that match.
Personal experience, I've done a lot of hiring, and I know that the ability to take the time and look at those resumes and really understand, okay, what have they done and is that transferable, makes a huge difference. And if you're doing that at scale, I mean, when I'm hiring one person at a time, that's one thing. But if you're a company looking at 10, 15 hires, having a company that can come in and do that for you is really helpful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Incredibly time consuming. Yeah.
Well, and that's where we really consider ourselves partners with our clients. So we're not going to say, okay, you need 100 people to work in a call center. We're going to send you the first 150 resumes that we come across. That's not how we work. I mean, and other people do. That's okay. That's filling an order.
Sure.
We think it's better if we can say, do you need this 100, and can you switch it around? Do you need it? Really be more of a partner in figuring out what their needs are first, and then working towards helping them fill their open positions.
It's great. Yeah. So as you think about, we've talked a lot about both red flags and challenges that companies put themselves in, self-inflicted wounds, right? We've talked about some of the best practices or things that people should be considering. As we are about to experience some really significant growth that we've talked about in this region, is there anything else that companies should be thinking about to differentiate themselves besides pay, besides culture? Is there any other aspect of what they should be thinking about differently?
I think a lot of companies sporadically make relationships with colleges. It's kind of when you have the need. So I think that you could start to have a longer term relationship with the colleges that are producing the candidates that you're seeking. So for instance, you might have a great relationship with Lemoyne, but you only go there every 3 or 4 years when you need someone. You should be talking to the students there and the faculty about what your company does on a regular basis. Bring them in for tours. Bring them in to meet some of the people that work there. This is what we're about, and give them an opportunity to look at it and think about it as they're choosing their courses. What are they thinking might fit for a job at XYZ company? Those kinds of long-term, forward-thinking relationships are going to really pay off, especially when we're bringing a lot of new companies in and we're going to be competing for a lot of talent.
Yeah.
More so than we already are.
And the colleges are hungry for that, right? I mean, their job is to find placements for their graduates. And so the more relationships they can develop with local companies, the better off. And the more we can keep them.
Yeah. And they also are looking for, what does my product need to look like? Obviously the students are a product. They wouldn't want to be called that, but are we producing the kind of candidates that they need for today's job?
Sure.
And that's the other thing. You can really spend some time. I know OCC is great at this, developing programs for employers that are going to help them. For instance, the one they did for CNAs.
Yeah. They definitely put that together and said, hey, we know that you're looking for the certified nurses assistants, and we're going to make this program work. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
It's really exciting to be in Central New York right now. I mean, to feel the difference of everybody's attitude, it's awesome.
It's palpable.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, Susan, you're absolutely right. It is an amazing time to be here. I love the enthusiasm you bring. And I think, we've got a lot of great information that our members can listen to, and some great resources even beyond that we've worked collaboratively with you on to build. And so thank you so much for your time and your partnership.
I was so happy to do this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
It was fun.
CenterState CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, is presented by NBT Bank. You can find all the expert miniseries episodes on clickcny.com and all major podcast platforms. On Click, you can join a discussion about this episode and find additional resources on this topic. Click is CenterState CEO's interactive digital chamber platform where our members connect, learn, and receive support from our staff.
For new episode reminders of our main series, Talk CNY, be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast listening app. If you're enjoying Talk CNY, consider leaving a quick review or a 5-star rating.